Hi there, it's Deb and Bec, and welcome to Dare to Be You TV Live. So, we've got a really great show lined up for you today, as always. But before we dive into the content of that, there's just a couple of things we wanted to tell you first. So, before all this crazy corona hit, we were due to have a hangout here at the farmhouse. We've got a couple of people due to come and stay with us for the weekend and just hang out and have some fun, and then kind of let the conversation deep dive when that was the right thing to do. But obviously that wasn't to be. But what it's meant is that we can open up the hangout and invite a couple of more people to join in with us, because we're going to see how we can do that online. So that's going to be Friday morning and Saturday morning this week. So if you are interested in joining us, let us know and we'll give you the details of that.
Yeah, and also one of the things that we've been doing recently is reviewing our mentoring options and packages, and we are now offering some one-to-one mentoring in sort of a 3-month package, or a smaller package, a kind of 1-month mentoring. So if you're interested in working more closely with us, if you like kind of what we share on the show and want to maybe look into this conversation a bit more with us directly, then do get in touch. You can have a little look at that on our website as well, or you can just come to us directly to ask us a bit more. It would be great to work with you.
Yeah, indeed it would. So let's get on with the show today. So as always, we're going to start with our living, learning and loving. So this week, what have I been living and learning? Well, Bec is really excited about my living and learning this week.
One of the things that you've learned this week.
Yes, one of the things. So as you know, this, what we share here is all about how human experience is created. We kind of look at the fact that there is something deeper behind human beings. There's this kind of spiritual element to being human, and to me it looks as if our spiritual element is the foundation of everything, and from that foundation arises this human experience. And then it's kind of like, well, how does this human experience work? How is it created, and how does that fit in with this amazing foundation that we all have, this deeper truth of us? And that's kind of what this conversation is all about, and where we point you towards. And what I have seen about the human experience and how it's created is that our biological brains are really good at categorizing and listing and kind of grouping things together, and all that sort of thing. And the reason that they're good at that is because it is quite a good way to function in this world that we live in. Even though not everything fits fairly and squarely nicely into every little box we put it into, and definitely the understanding that we point towards kind of is about realizing really that we're doing that we categorize and put things into boxes and put things together that look as if they belong together, because it makes sense of how this works. It makes sense. It's a good way to operate in the world. But also it's good to kind of know that we've done that. We've put those together and categorized them and done that in that way. And we can also undo it. If it stops being helpful, we can stop doing that kind of thing. And so I kind of got to a place, and I was having a think about it, and I'd got a lot of things going on with the business that we run, with all the stuff that we do. I'd got notebooks and my iPad, and I'd kind of got all these things. And I watched Bec with her beautiful spreadsheets and her categorization and her lists. And I kind of thought, yeah, there's something in the way that the power behind life created us to be able to list and categorize, because it makes things easier sometimes. And it's also good to know that we don't always have to do that, and things can come out of those boxes. But the upshot of it was, my living and learning this week has been, I said to Bec, all this stuff that I have on my desk that just kind of, I was rooting through papers to work stuff out. Do you think that would work well on a spreadsheet? And Bec danced around the office and was like, yes,
Finally, I've broken her down.
And so for me, it's kind of, it's just reminded me, it's a really great metaphor for how human experience works, and how we have been given all sorts of things to ease our experience, but also how helpful it is to remember that, you know, the foundation for that, what's underneath that, looking towards something deeper. Sometimes, you know, remember that as well, and be aware that we are listing and categorizing, and that's not solid, it's not permanent, and just, we can use that when it's helpful, because I can see it's been really unhelpful for me to let the desk get full of all these bits of paper that I'm then trying to root through. I'm not kind of using something to my advantage, I'm using it against myself, which I think human beings, we can do that in so many ways. And it's like, actually, it's going to be really handy. So I have started my first spreadsheet, guys. So watch this space.
And to kind of like, yeah, I love that. I love, I'd never seen the metaphor of a spreadsheet and the categorizing. That was great. And to kind of take that almost a bit further, one of the things I love, and one of the reasons I use spreadsheets in that way myself, is because the way spreadsheets are designed, they don't stay fixed. You can move stuff around with absolute ease. Once you know what you're doing, once you understand how it works, it's like, if that doesn't fit that category anymore, it can go over here. If it's not relevant at all anymore, it can just be deleted and it's gone. If 3 things over here need to be here, it's just, you can move around on a spreadsheet with absolute ease once you understand how kind of the operating system works behind it. And that, as you were sharing, I was like, oh yes, a spreadsheet is the perfect metaphor for life. How have I not seen that? So yeah, I've been showing Deb.
So you've learned something about spreadsheets.
Yes, turns out I have. That might be my living and learning this week. So yeah, I've been helping Deb out with some spreadsheets and what she might do and how she might kind of categorize that, which has been cool. And I think my living and learning this week has been around thought versus reality. I keep kind of seeing stuff around, like we share obviously, you know, in these shows and in the programs that we run and the mentoring we do and the conversations we're having all the time, we're kind of sharing this understanding and sort of saying everything's thought, you know, it's all thought. And each time you kind of almost clear one layer of thought, it's like, oh, is this thought too? Is this thought too?
Thought all the way down.
And it is like, it becomes this, almost, it becomes easy to say because it's what I share, it's what I teach, it's what I'm, you know, talking about. And yet there are obviously times in my life where I kind of forget that, or I don't see it for myself too. And very much the reason we have this conversation so much is to remind ourselves and to come back to, where might there be a place that I'm still seeing that as reality? And like kind of what we share and what we point to is that our realities are thought created. And then I forget that, and I think there's thought and then there's reality. And it's like, it's just, I keep being reminded, and I've been reminded so clearly in the last few weeks, how many places we've forgotten that we've got it set up as thought or reality, rather than thought creates this reality. It's like, there is no solid reality without thought. Thought is always what's creating behind that reality. And like, I kind of often use this metaphor of a solid brick wall, and it being like, as you approach that kind of brick wall, it looks like there's no way through, there's no way over, under, around, and somehow kind of our awareness, when we are piqued, when our interest is piqued, what if this isn't as solid as it looks? It's amazing what starts to, you know, suddenly we notice there's a door handle or a gate handle, if you like, or there's a slight break in the wall and there's a way through. And it is just, for me, that's what's been going on for me in the last few weeks, is kind of really seeing again how many places there are that I've got a solid brick wall. And it's like, that, no, that's a brick wall. The other ones might only be individual bricks, but that one's a solid brick wall. And it can't be. You know, what we're pointing to here is 100%. So, you know, and we have conversations. We were having a conversation with someone this week who, without kind of realizing quite what they were saying, he said, oh yeah, and the corona is bad, but what, you know, I can have different thinking about it. And it was like, whoa, hang on just a minute, because that's a solid brick wall. You know, corona equals bad. That's a solid brick wall. And it's, for me, it's just being aware that we do that. You know, and there's lots and lots of places where we've got kind of thoughts and stories that are so tightly interwoven that we don't even notice that that's what they are. They are just reality. and we've forgotten the thought that kind of sits behind it. So that's been a massive part of kind of some of my learning this week, and living that. Like, it's amazing what starts to just drop away, as I've kind of been reminded of that again. And definitely in light of the current situation and what's going on with kind of lockdown, and can we go out, should we go out, should we see people, shouldn't we see
the conversations
people?
Around that,
and, you know, and that, I mean, that sparks some fantastic conversations for people. It certainly has for us, and I know with people we've been speaking to, like, how much of that is reality and how much is thought created, and it's just coming back again and again and again. It's all thought created. So yeah, that's been a massive part of my living and learning.
So my loving this week, I am really loving that it is Mental Health Awareness Week this week, because I think, and the key word for that for me is awareness. Because I think awareness is key. Full stop, basically. I think, you know, you can kind of stop there. Awareness is key. And I think that the thing that is most helpful for anybody, I think, in that arena, you know, if we are struggling in any way at all, is to become aware. And one of the things that we are always pointing towards is about knowing yourself. And it's kind of like becoming aware. And like when you were saying earlier about, you know, this thought and reality, there are so many things that we just we don't see anymore because they're so in front of us, they're so obvious. I mean, there's loads and loads of really beautiful little memes and little sayings, and even the daily inspirational things that we send out. There's loads of really kind of nice little sayings, and I can't tell you how many times you just kind of you're scrolling through, or you're just seeing them there, and they stop having any meaning because they're just there. They just become part of the furniture, part of what looks real, and we stop seeing it. And I think, you know, we can do that with our own mental health. It's just, oh yeah, this is who I am, this is how I am, this low level anxiety, this is how I function, this is what is, this is how it is. And it's like, for me, just getting curious and looking at that, just kind of looking again, you know, when we kind of stop with one of those memes and actually have a minute and go, okay, I'm going to actually be present and read this and see behind the words, then it kind of has a wow impact. But all too quickly, that it's just some words that we can recite, and we there's no meaning to it. And I think we can just get sucked in by that everywhere. So I am loving that this week there is all sorts of stuff about saying, become aware of things, become aware. And I love, you know, get curious, become aware, look at yourself, look at, just, you know, don't take our word for any of this. Play in this arena yourself, because that's when what you see from within yourself, that's where magic happens. When one of those memes that has just been words on a piece of paper suddenly jump up and dance in front of your eyes and smack you over the head and kind of go, this is what we're pointing. It's amazing when that kind of thing happens. So to me, yeah, I am loving that it is Mental Health Awareness Week, because I think we should, I guess if we permanently had awareness going on, that would just become one of those things.
It becomes a non-awareness in the end, doesn't it?
But just kind of, yeah, being aware of how your experience is created, looking at that, questioning that, getting curious about it. There's magic in doing that.
Yeah.
What's my loving this week, Bec?
I think my loving this week is all of the wonderful people that have been joining us for coffee and chat over the last few weeks. It was something, the coffee and chat was something we kind of came up with as we went into the kind of pandemic and the lockdown, and there was a lot of people kind of concerned and wanted to just get together online because we didn't know quite how long we'd be in lockdown and when we'd see each other again. So we kind of put together a weekly coffee and chat, and we get a really amazing group of people that regularly turn up for that.
Beautiful conversations.
Absolutely beautiful kind of conversations, people being brave enough to share what's going on for them, people being good enough to share things that they've seen that have been helpful. It's just a really nice space that,
it is,
that kind
it's
of
lovely.
It feels like it's a space that has only been created because of the people that want to turn up and make something of it. So anyone that's turned up to even one of our coffee and chats, and those of you that turn up regularly, that you're my loving this week. I've really been appreciating those spaces that we've created together. So that's my loving this week.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they are amazing, aren't they? And we do have a really, really lovely, we are building a beautiful community. So yeah, that is wonderful. Yes. So we will move on to our question for this week. So our question is, what does a healthy relationship look like? Well,
I was hoping you might draw me a picture, Deb.
Oh, right, okay, yeah. Well, all the papers I've got on my desk that I haven't put into my spreadsheet yet. How do you draw a picture of what a healthy relationship looks like? I guess if we kind of go back to what we were just talking about, that awareness, for me, I think a healthy relationship it's a personal thing. I don't think there is kind of
one size fits all.
Yeah. I don't think there is a one size fits all.
No.
I don't think relationships are like that. I don't think that's how it works. I think it is a thing that is personal to us. And that was one of the things that really kind of struck me. I can't even remember. It was a conversation, and I can't remember who the conversation was with or how it happened, but I remember having a conversation about relationships and about what was acceptable in relationships and what wasn't. And it was that conversation that opened my mind up to how much they are made up. Because it would be like, you kind of assume that if you're talking about relationships and maybe like what does a healthy relationship look like, points initially, I suppose, to a loving couple, that kind of relationship, but it could be any, but like within a couple. And this conversation that I had when we were talking about couples relationships, I was like, okay, so there must be some things that everybody holds the same. So it's like, okay, so does everybody agree that, you don't cheat? And then it was like, well, what does cheating mean? And then we kind of went around the room and we were talking to different people, and it was really clear that everybody it's a bit like that. If you kind of say, oh, everybody imagine a dog, and you kind of think, oh yeah, we're all going to be imagining the same thing. And then we describe, and I'm kind of seeing a little terrier that's white and ginger. And if you say what did you think of when I said think of a dog?
I thought of my sister's dog, who's a Dalmatian, and I can't think what he's a cross with. Can you remember? He's a Dalmatian cross anyway, so he's spotty with white. He's white with black spots and some black patches, and he's quite a tall dog, and he's very dopey and entirely different to what you just explained.
So when we kind of say, let everybody imagine a dog, it's really easy to assume everybody is thinking the same thing. And yet when you then kind of prod in a little bit more, when you look there, what is that? We've got two totally different ideas in our mind. So when we go into a relationship, and it's kind of like, okay, so if one of the rules is a relationship is nobody cheats, then there's what is cheating? What would you see that as? What would you see that as? And as in this conversation, it really opened my mind to see that how made up a relationship is, and how we make up in our minds what we think a relationship should be like, and then we hold ourselves to that. And I can see, and I know because of conversations that Bec and I have had in the past about her relationships, we both made up things about what a healthy relationship should be like. And then when the truth of our relationship didn't live up to that, I know both of us had instances where we kind of were considering finishing the relationship because it didn't kind of live up to what our idea of what this relationship should be. And then when we actually stopped and looked at what that rule was, we kind of saw that we'd even got that rule from someone else. We didn't even know if that's what we thought ourselves. So that's kind of a starter for relationships are made up. Relationships are personal. Relationships are, what makes sense to you and the other person. But the kind of the caveat, what I would say with that, and what I would say about life itself, is what it looks to me since I've been in this conversation is I notice that there are certain things in my life that cause me suffering. And I'd go even further than that and say there are certain thoughts that I believe that cause me to suffer. And I notice when I don't buy into that, I don't suffer. And I think that is true of healthy relationships. When I'm kind of in a healthy relationship and my mind is healthy, when I know myself, when I am clear, I do not suffer in my relationships. When I'm unclear and when I'm not in a great place, I suffer and struggle really, really easily. So to me, a healthy relationship comes from a healthy mind, comes from knowing the truth of who I am. So the definition for me of what does a healthy relationship look like? It looks like me knowing the truth of who I am and knowing where my suffering is coming from. And kind of, it feels to me like that's enough in this game. The fact that I know that seems to be massively helpful in that happening less, and the suffering and the struggling happens less and less when I just know what is going on. And it feels to me then all of the people that I am in relationships with just get healthier and stronger and happier from that place.
Yeah, that's a perfect place for me to take over, because what was kind of going through my mind was on relationship school this week, our topic has been know thyself. And on first kind of hearing, that sounds like something that has nothing to do with relationships, because relationships are me and another person, and whether that's partner, child, work colleague, whoever, fill in the blank. A relationship appears to be me and another. And so know thyself almost is like, how can that possibly fit? But what kind of, for me, what I feel like works really, really well around a healthy relationship is the more that I know myself, the healthier my relationships get. And it's, for me, that's like there's two layers to knowing myself. There's kind of the human self, like if you've listened to other stuff that we've shared, we often talk about we're kind of both human and spiritual. We're a spiritual essence having a human experience. We're 100% human and 100% spiritual. And for me, then, the know thyself is those two elements. Like, what does it mean to be human? How does a human work? How does this human work? Because as far as I can tell, this is the human I get to experience. I don't think I get to experience Deb. The way this seems to be set up is I get to experience being Bec. So how does Bec work? Who is Bec? What does Bec like? What doesn't she like? What makes her struggle? What does she enjoy? What does she get pleasure out of? What causes her to stumble? And kind of get to know some of that. And then there's the kind of spiritual essence where it's getting to know that I'm not fixed, and yet there's something about me that doesn't change. There's an essence about me that can't be damaged. There's something about me that produces this amazing human experience whilst being completely safe and secure, no matter what happens out in that human experience. And so the kind of know thyself, that for me, that's one of those spiritual teachings that almost gets banded around here and everywhere,
one of those things, one of those memes.
Yeah, well, it is one of those memes, and it becomes sometimes but for me it's about really coming back and going, what is there to know? What is there to know? What does that mean if we're 100% human and 100% spiritual? And then from there, as I've explored that and played around with that and got to know some of that and seen different things about myself, then what I found happens for me is there's an internal shift. There's almost like if you looked at my wardrobe doors, you can't tell whether my wardrobe is tidy, organised, sorted and perfect or an absolute jumble sale. You have no way of knowing that. There's just doors there. And what kind of happens to me sometimes is periodically I'll open those doors and have a really good sort out, and then it will be super organised and lovely and clean and tidy, and I shut the doors and I go to sleep and think, clean and tidy wardrobe, and other times it's chaos in there. And it's like, what happens for me when I get to know myself is that internal thing, that kind of inside my wardrobe, organized feeling, that kind of comes back for me more and more. Inside me, I feel tidier, cleaner, healthier, more loving, kinder, the more that I get to know myself. And it's almost and often something that from the outside you can't always see. You know, you can't always see what's changing inside for someone, but it just feels cleaner and healthier inside me, being Becky, in my mind, living, because I think I kind of, for want of a better phrase, live inside my own mind. I can't kind
we kind of live inside somewhere, don't we? It's like, what's it like in there?
It's not really inside. I don't even think it's really that, but that's sort of how the experience
feels like we're
it kind of comes in that way, doesn't it? In some way, it feels like I live inside this body, in this mind, whatever's going on up here. Somehow the experience of Becky happens through this vessel.
Kind of through, isn't it?
Yeah. And I, as far as I can tell, there isn't a way to not live like that. You know, I'm either living the Becky vessel or I'm dead, I think. As far as, you know, as much as I can tell. It feels
like we can go a little, it sort of feels, it's a funny one,
like I'm living
it?
Becky, and you know, Becky might have a home and a places that she goes, but for the most part, the experience I have is actually an internal one. And the more I've played around in this conversation and got to know those two elements, the human and spiritual, and how they work together, the cleaner my mind has got, the more kind of clarity I have, the calmer I am, the more peaceful I am. And you just can't have that experience and it not impact your relationship. Like it can't, because for me that kind of, it spills out, you know, it kind of spills out in the same way that
what's going on out there reflects what's going on in here, really, doesn't it?
In the same way that, you know, if my wardrobe is organized and tidy and I open the doors, I end up wearing a really nice put together outfit, and when it's an absolute mess, I just grab the nearest thing and goodness knows what I look like. That's kind of how this works for me. The cleaner and more together I am inside my own vessel, inside my own mind, inside whatever this is, the more that is what goes outwards in all the relationships that I have. Everything from, you know, the person that serves me in the supermarket to my nearest and dearest, to, you know, my business and auntie partner and my, you know, and Andrew, my partner, and like, you know, and those people that I'm with and connecting with the most, every relationship in between, you know, whatever relationships there are on the scale, they are just healthier because it's cleaner and healthier in here for me.
Yeah, and to me, the kind of the way that we get cleaner and healthier in here is by understanding how this experience is created.
Yeah.
Because I can see, you know, I can describe what my relationship was like when it was very unhealthy. You know, I believed the thought that I wasn't good enough. I believed the thought that I needed someone else to love me so that I could be okay. So the someone else that happened to be in my life had similar thoughts and beliefs around themselves. They believed that I was the person who should be making them happy. I believed that I was the person, you know, I thought that was my job to make him happy. He thought it was his job to make me happy. And we were very, very confused about how life worked and where our happiness came from. So, you know, we believe the thought that it, you know, when I think it's my job to make Bec happy or something like that, it means I act in certain ways. But it is a little bit like, I know we've used this analogy before, but, you know, Bec's got a car and I've got a car, and, you know, when I'm driving my car around, it's got a whole dashboard with lights and things on that tell me, and obviously, you know, a petrol indicator and an oil indicator and an engine management something or other that comes on.
It's a very nice car.
Don't know much about cars, probably guess that. But, you know, my dashboard gives me information about my car. So when my car needs, you know, if the engine management light comes on, there's something wrong with the engine of my car. It needs attention. I need to pay attention. I need to become aware of what's wrong with my engine. And what it looked to me when in an unhealthy relationship, if you like, is it looks to me like we slightly misunderstand that. And it's like, if my engine warning light came on, then I would be going, right, Bec, you need to do something with your car. You need to take your car to the garage because, you know, this engine warning light's come on. So go on, off you go, take your car to the garage. And then Bec would also be trying to sort her car out from, you know, use the panel of her in her car, thinking it was telling her about mine. And it's like, it's a basic misunderstanding. And you know what Bec was pointing to there is, when we kind of have the realization, do you know what, when I feel bad, it is nothing to do with another person, and it is telling me about me. You know, that's my indicator, indicating something about me. It's giving me information about me. And so kind of having the realization, you know, I felt very, very insecure. I felt very unhappy. I felt very unloved when I was in that relationship. I felt like this person was, you know, I lost myself. I forgot who I was because I was so busy trying to be what I thought I needed to be so that this person loved me. And it works exactly the opposite way around. Once I kind of came back to myself, once I realized who I was, once I got comfortable in my own skin, and it took time. It wasn't kind of an overnight thing. It didn't happen in a minute. You know, I had to get curious. I had to play with this. I had to become aware, look around me, see. I had to, it's an experience that we have to have for ourselves, because it's impossible to describe it to someone else. And again, it's kind of like the whole dog thing. If we go back to that, if I'm there going, you know, think of a dog, so I know exactly what's going on in your mind, because I'm imagining this little white fluffy dog with, you know, ginger on his coat, and you're busy thinking of a big black and white lollopy dog. So we're just not on the same page. So you have to have your own experience of this. You have to kind of have an idea of what it is we're pointing towards, and look for yourself and see what you see within you. But when we begin to know that, you know, our feelings tell us about us. You know, when the indicator light, when my indicator light says I'm low on petrol, I need to put petrol in my car, not in Bec's. You know, and then when Bec's petrol light comes on, she needs to put petrol in her car, not in, well, I know, actually you can do it in mine.
I know, I was thinking the same when you said it. But it won't help your light.
No, it won't make the light on, you know, and that's the whole point. Like you say, what I would do was fill up with petrol in your car and wonder why then my light hasn't gone off, and then work harder and harder and harder to try and do that, and you're just going in the wrong direction. And from there, relationships just get more and more unhealthy. We become really needy. We become, you know, all those words that we dread when we read relationship books. You know, nobody likes a needy person, and that's what we become when we're like that. And yet, when we begin to see what this is truly pointing to, and when we clean up our own mess, when we fill our own car with petrol, when we understand where those lights are pointing us towards, then what we have, however it is, whatever it looks like, is a much, much, much more healthy relationship. A nice, clean, tidy wardrobe.
Yes. I was listening to something yesterday from Aaron Turner that has just popped into my mind as you were talking there, Deb, which feels sort of relevant. He was actually sharing about businesses and working with businesses, which, to my mind, all of this relationship stuff is kind of, you know, it works in all of these areas, whether it's a business relationship, a romantic relationship.
Life is all about relationships.
It absolutely is. And what he was kind of talking about was kind of clarity of mind. And to my mind, that phrase that he was using was what I was pointing to earlier about having a cleaner mind and a healthier, more loving mind. He was kind of talking about, from clarity of mind, what we go out in the world and do might be very different to what we do when we've got a cloudy mind. And he was trying to explain this to someone in a business setting, and the person he was explaining to had a meeting to attend, and it was a meeting where they had some information that they needed to share with the other person, but it was information they were reluctant to share. And they were going into this meeting with a very foggy, cloudy mind and weren't going to share the information that they perhaps should be sharing. But what he was kind of explaining to them was, when we kind of come back to that clarity and that clear mind, what you go into that meeting and do, what you actually do might not be different. As in, you still might not share that information if that's not the right thing to do. But that information itself is neutral. That's just information. And what you do from a clear mind with that information will produce much better results than if you go into that meeting with a cloudy mind, defensive, holding the information back, being, rude or aggressive or whatever it might be to that person. And he was kind of having this conversation, and the person he was talking to kind of thought, I see what you mean. Like, what I do in that meeting, the actions I might take with the information may not be any different. But what is different is me internally. And somehow the other person kind of feels that, and the response you get is entirely different.
We feel people's energy, don't we? We kind of know that. Definitely. And
that kind of, with what we were just talking about, really struck me as like, what I might list as my perfect healthy relationship might be different to yours. I might say I want a partner who's quite loving and tells me he loves me regularly or hugs me a lot, or you might be someone who's more practical. I prefer that he fixes my car when it's broken, or whatever. We might have different things that we want from that relationship, that we kind of think that would be an ideal perfect relationship. But what I notice is that the more we're in kind of clarity of mind, whatever those things are out there, they feel different, we behave differently, we receive something. It just becomes this ongoing cycle of a nicer, cleaner, healthier connection with somebody. Whatever the kind of detailed, whatever that information might be that we're exchanging, if you like, if we're coming from a clarity of mind in that relationship, that information exchange is a different thing altogether. It comes from a different place. We feel different. The other person has a different experience. It becomes this cleaner exchange. And I really kind of heard that in what Aaron was sharing about this business situation he was talking to somebody about. There's just something about a clearer, cleaner mind that means whatever our relationships are, they are healthier. Whatever list we might have, what we want those relationships to be.
So what does a healthy relationship look like? Two people who come together with nice, clean, clear minds.
Yeah, definitely. Kind of starting with our own clear, clean minds.
Yeah, I was going to say, and one of the things that we always say is it doesn't take two in this. No. So if you come into a relationship with a clean, clear mind, that is more than enough, because moving forward, the relationship will unfold in ways that you can't imagine if you have a clean, clear mind. And not every relationship is destined to be a lifelong relationship. You can have a relationship with someone, like you say, in a supermarket for 2 minutes as you exchange buying goods for them, but it can be a beautiful relationship from a clean, clear mind on your side. So the key to a healthy relationship is a clean, clear mind. So shall we move on to our topic, a great relationship topic here, jealousy.
Off the back of the last conversation, this is going to be a good one.
So we are in the middle of relationship school live at the moment, and our topic, was it last week, was jealousy. And we had some amazing conversations around there. And just kind of, for me, I'm sort of trying to look back. I'm sure we all have felt jealous at some point or another. I'm sure anyone who's watching this, we can relate to the idea of feeling jealous within a relationship. And I know for sure that it's happened to me. I know that in my relationship, there are absolutely times when I can feel very, very jealous. And it's kind of exactly what you were saying about what you heard there about how we show up. To me, jealousy it's like It is like, it really makes your mind, it clogs your mind up, doesn't it? It does.
Yeah.
You don't have a nice, clean, clear mind when you're feeling jealous. For me, definitely, those feelings of jealousy, what they are actually telling me is you're not in your right mind. You are actually out of your mind, right? In this moment, when you feel jealous, you are out of your mind. You know, you're crazy. And so the actions that you take from being jealous, what we do from those places, and what I have found really, really helpful about being in this conversation is just seeing that, really, just seeing that feelings of jealousy mean that I have lost my mind momentarily, that I've gone a little bit crazy. And it's not to say that, you know, someone else's behavior is unacceptable. It's not to say that the relationship, you know, if I'm feeling jealous, that I won't end a relationship. It's not to say that any of those things, but it is just an awareness that what jealousy is telling me in that moment is that I've gone slightly crazy and I'm out of my mind. And if you think about, you know, if you read romance books, or even, it doesn't even have to be that, you know, many films that we watch, whether they are about personal relationships or whether they're about, I've seen films, you know, people murder because of jealousy, you know, and it doesn't even have to be in a love relationship. When, you know, someone is having an affair or something like that, you know, we murder for jealousy because people have money that we think belongs to us, and that will be the way that we will get it if someone is out of the picture. And those kinds of things, for me, just highlight how much we are out of our minds when we listen and believe that thinking that we have. But it's perfectly normal and it's perfectly human to feel like that. But what I see since I have been a part of this conversation is that I don't have to believe that thinking, and I don't have to listen to it. And once my mind, you know, whatever it is that's going on, exactly what you were pointing to, Beck, once my mind is clean and clear again, the information might be the same. You know, if you watch any of those films when people do things out of jealousy, whatever it is they do, as we're watching them, you know, you can kind of go, don't do that, don't do that, because we know it's a crazy, mad thing to do. And the information may be the same, but when our mind becomes clean and clear, what we do and how we show up will be different. And so to me, kind of a feeling of jealousy is something that's telling me you're out of your mind, you're crazy, just wait for this feeling to subside and then decide what you're going to do.
Yeah, it's very much that, isn't it? Like feelings, especially something like jealousy, which can come, it can be a very, very strong emotion. And like Deb said, you know, I watch a lot of crime TV, and there's often one of the first kind of things that they look for is a partner or somebody they work with. You know, if that person got the job promotion they wanted, or those kinds of things, people do kill for that kind of stuff, because that emotion of jealousy can be so compelling and so incredibly strong. And what we kind of misunderstand, and what we're kind of pointing to here, is that that feeling is not giving us information about the outside world. It is not telling us I should have got that job, or my partner shouldn't behave in that way. It is not giving us information about what's happening out there. It is literally telling us how clear our mind is in that moment.
Or not.
Or not. The stronger the feeling, the more cloudy our mind, the more kind of fogged up we are. And, you know, in the same way that on a very, very, very foggy night, I probably wouldn't go out driving my car because I'm not going to be able to see very far. You know, when I've got a very, very foggy mind, indicated to me by how strong that feeling of jealousy is, I'm not going to go out and do something from there, because it just looks to me like
you'll end up in a crime drama.
Yeah, I'm going to end up in a crime drama. You know, it is that what we do from a cloudy mind is just not going to bring about amazing results. It's going to bring about probably quite a big mess. And it's, for me, it's just getting to know how we truly operate, that those feelings don't point to something out there. They don't give us information about whatever's happening out there. it can look so compelling, can't it? It comes with this
Yep.
really strong drive.
Yep.
That person's done me wrong, or that person has behaved in a way that I don't like. I must put that right. And it's actually telling us what's going on inside for us. It's saying, you know, your mind's too foggy to make a decision from here. You know, whether it is about a colleague, about a romantic partner, about your child's mother-in-law, whatever it might be, because we, you know, we do get that kind of thing, don't we? Our friends, I know I've had that in the past, major kind of friendship jealousy, that kind of stuff. It's not telling me that. It's not telling me that there's something wrong with somebody else being friends with my friend. It's telling me I'm cloudy. I've got too much going on in my mind. My chatter is too busy. I need to kind of wait, take a breath, and just see what comes in a moment, in a few days, in a week. Because I don't know about you, but if you've ever had that kind of feeling, it's probably not here now. Because those kinds of feelings, they move on. They come to tell us what state we're in. They come to tell us where we're at. And then they move on because another thought comes, or another story or situation comes up for us. So it's really massively about understanding what that feeling is actually telling us, what information it really holds. And it's the exact opposite to what we think it is. And that, I mean, that's true for any emotion, isn't it? It's not
it is.
just jealousy particularly, but
that goes back to that awareness thing, doesn't it? Being aware, because before I came across this understanding, I did think that my jealous feelings were giving me information about my relationship, the state of my relationship, the other person involved, what someone had done that they shouldn't have done. That's what I believed. If I felt jealous about something, it was because you had done something that you shouldn't have done. That was where that feeling came from. And actually realizing that what the feeling is like a little alarm clock within you to wake you up to the fact that you have moved away from, you've forgotten how this is working. You've moved away from truth. You're moving into dangerous waters. Those feelings are an indicator of danger, but not the danger I thought they were. They're an indicator of how dangerous I am becoming because I am out of my mind. And it's kind of like, you're just not in a great place to make judgments now. And what I have really, really seen is that as I understand that, even when I am in that state of jealousy, like we just kind of said, it's an indicator to maybe not do anything. And what I have noticed over the time that I have been around this understanding is, initially in those moments, the most I could do was nothing. I came from, if I had those sort of feelings, I acted on them. I told you what you were doing wrong, or I sulked, or I cried, or I removed myself from a relationship, or I reacted in some way. And then I came to a place where I'm like, the best thing I can do here is nothing. And what I've noticed about human beings and how flipping amazing we are is that what I have seen is, as I understand this, what I can see is I can have that feeling and yet do something quite different to that. I can override this real need to punch someone in the face or tell them what I think, or act from what that jealous feeling appears to be telling me, to kind of know, what that's telling you is you're out of your mind and these suggestions of what to do aren't great, so why don't you do something kind or do something. And I've actually got to a place where it's much easier to do that. It makes more sense to me, with what I know about life, with what I know about how life works, and with what I know about what this information is telling me. Every time I've done something 80 degrees different to what first appears, I've seen great results. And like you said, we don't get great results. When I feel jealous and I feel like, no, you're taking something that's mine, or you're overstepping a mark, or you shouldn't have done that, the outcome isn't great when I follow that thought, when I follow that. And yet, when I kind of come around and go, okay, what's 180 degree difference? If this information is telling me I'm out of my mind, if I was in my right mind, what would I do? I might ask a question. I might just leave the situation alone. I might I don't know what I might do from there, but whatever comes to me from there, I have found that that's available in that moment too. When I look, when my mind opens, when I begin to understand, I have more options, and I have some pretty good options most of the time too.
Yeah, it's very much that, isn't it? Like when we come back round to that, emotion isn't telling us go out and cause absolute kind of havoc in whatever way you kind of is running through your mind to do. But when we kind of come back to that clarity of mind, and it's always available,
Yeah.
like just beyond that kind of driving emotion, there's peace of mind is available. And from there, what I find fascinating is that I think we can get very caught in, if I don't do something now from here in this moment, that person's going to get away with X, Y, Z, whatever it is we've got kind of running. And what I notice is when I come back to that clarity of mind, when I step kind of out of that emotion and where it's pushing me, the things I actually can do, the things that make sense to me from a clear mind, get me a lot further. You know, if there's something, you know, like take the example of somebody got the job I think I should have got and I'm now jealous. Like, what am I going to do from a jealous headspace? I'm going to cause problems in the office, or I'm going to undermine their work, or whatever it is. That's going to make me look even less competent at the job that I wanted. But from a clear mind, I can look and go, okay, so what was it that maybe that kind of put me on the back foot? What was it that meant that I wasn't ready for that job, or that person decided I didn't do as well in the interview? And from a clear mind, I've got a way better chance of improving whatever it is that felt like I didn't quite match up in that way, so that next time I'm going to go in there with a much clearer mind and a much better chance. And it's just seeing that what kind of happens is we turn this entirely on its head. From a place of jealous and that kind of cloudy headspace, it looks like if we don't act, we're going to lose out. We're going to be, you know, the mug that got walked all over, or whatever it might be. But from a clear mind, we can see that there's always something helpful we can do for ourselves. But it comes from a much better space, and it gets, you know, what comes out of that, like our biggest freedom is on the other side of our biggest fear. And so it's very much about seeing that, you know, jealousy or any emotion like that that appears to drive us in a direction is pointing us to how clear our mind is not. You know, it's pointing to how cloudy and foggy we actually are. And then as that kind of clears, as we, you know, get curious about what's beyond that jealous feeling, and amazing stuff can come from there. Yeah. Amazing stuff.
And as always, you know, the invitation here is, don't take our word for it. Play with this yourself. Look, you know, if there's some small things in your life that aren't a great big deal, just play with it. Just kind of like, what if I did something different here? What if, you know, there was something in what they were talking about? What if I just play with this? Because absolutely, you know, what we do is we play in this arena. We look, we kind of, because everything here, because we are pointing towards truth, everything here it's hidden in plain view. And when we actually kind of start to get curious and play and look, it's amazing what we find. So yeah, the invitation is to play around with this yourself and see what you see for yourself, because maybe the words you put on it might be different to ours, but there is magic in understanding how human experience is created moment to moment.
Yeah, absolutely. So that brings us sadly to the end of this week's show.
Time just goes so quick.
It speeds by. So next week, what have we got lined up for you? Our question next week is, how do I save my relationship? It's a great question.
It is indeed.
And our topic next week is following your passion. Ooh, looking forward to that.
Yeah, that is going to be a fun one, isn't it?
Yeah, so hopefully wherever you are watching this, you'll be able to catch up with us again next week. And, you know, if there's any questions that you've got off the back of this, or you want to connect with us in any way, you can comment below, or you can drop us a private message through Facebook, or we have an email, daretobeyou@gmx.co.uk, or have a look at our website, daretobeyou.co.uk.
Yeah, we always love to hear from you. We always love your comments on our show, so feel free to comment wherever you are, and hopefully we'll catch up with you again soon. Take care.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us.
Bye.
Bye.